Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Cupid's Coach podcast. I'm your host, Julie Ferman, inviting you, as always, to transform me to we through the process of doing dating better, managing your dating life a little better than you used to. You got a big leg up today, folks. I have somebody very special on the show. I've known her for a long time. Her name is Dr. Marcy Cole. She's a holistic psychotherapist. She's a life enrichment producer. I love this one. She's a community mobilizer, and I have been mobilized by this woman, so I can tell you that's true. She's a humanitarian and a visionary. She got her bachelor's degree from Northwestern University, her master's from Loyola University, and her doctorate from the University of Clinical Social Work in Chicago. So her approach is holistic, meaning she focuses on supporting optimal physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Welcome to the program, Dr. Marcy Cole.
Thank you, Julie. That was a very good overview and of a lot. That was a lot condensed in a great soundbite. Thank you.
Well, you know, you've been a professional for a really long time.
As have you. I mean, we've been through it. We're talking decades of living experience, right? And on lots of fronts.
Absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why I really enjoy this podcast, because I never get Marcy Cole one-on-one for 45 minutes. When do I ever get to do that?
And likewise, Julie, seriously, I know, you know what happens is when you're doing group stuff, whether it's on podcast or live events or whatever, it's true. You don't get the discussions that you would love to have. My favorite thing with First Tuesday Global, which was the women's group, was these brunches, these quarterly brunches where people could get together. And it was like my favorite thing because I could just show up and to be like girlfriend time, you know? So anyway, sweet. It's a good opportunity for us as well.
It's beautiful. And how I know you initially is because you started this thing called First Tuesdays, and Allie brought me. Allie
Oh,
brought.
oh, sweet. Yes, that was a gosh, Allie. Yeah, Allie was really involved. You know, there's like chapters. I was in LA for 18 years. It started in 2005 in living rooms, and then it organically morphed into life enrichment events and speakers and whatever, and a community of amazing women that gathered. And so now we're virtual. Now we're First Tuesday Global because now we're virtual. So anyone and everyone is welcome from around the world that wants to stay connected to other beautiful women.
And that was really when I noticed in spending time at First Tuesdays, it was the themes were the women who would come were spiritual, they were growth oriented. A lot of them were business people and appreciated the networking opportunity. But I think the word that stands out the most as I look back on all those times I spent with those beautiful women was it was soulful.
Yes. You know what, this part of my life and it wasn't like a business networking thing. That was never what moved my heart. What moved my heart is beautiful, as you say, soulful, heart-centered women coming together and just having conversations about a lot of things. And then, of course, it moved into, things where men were welcome and we had more and more high-profile speakers. But honestly, especially now where, we need more connectivity than ever on and offline. I mean, I have clients that I've never met live since COVID. Like I'm all virtual now. So with my one-on-one clients. So, but it can be really sweet and really intimate as well. I mean, nothing replaces like live when you can hug someone and like touch them from across the table. But we still need this more than ever. We really do.
It's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show again, because I'm seeing this resurgence of community events, in real life events, not only in person, but like the kind of events that you do, the kind of events that I do online, where people can get together from all over the place. I started a boot camp since I've talked with you last, and it's my life's best work. It's so wonderful because I get a chance to work really closely with 15 people for a whole month. And we do these online office hours. And there are other people doing like dating boot camps, but it's typically just women. And I love having men and women together in my boot camp classes because we really get into the nitty gritty. Why do guys do this? And the guys chime in and say, well, this is the reason. And why do you girls do this? It's just so
Those must be great conversations. Oh my God.
And we don't record them. They get much more juicy if they're not recorded.
I bet. I bet. But you know what? I wonder if a transcript without identifying information could be useful, because that would be fun for people to read. And, that's a great idea, Julie. It's kind of like group therapy with education, but, yeah, training and with men and
Yeah.
women,
I'm
definitely.
wondering though, even if there was a transcript, people might not say, like, they might not let the F-bomb fly, or they might, it's like, who knows? But I'll be willing to ask them if they
Yeah,
would.
and you know what? They can sign off. You could send them and say, will you approve this? And like, as long as they can see that there's nothing
Yeah,
incriminating, nothing identifying.
I actually really like that idea, Marcy. Thank you for that. It's with a lot of the quotes that I use and the success stories,
Yes.
I always change them enough that people aren't identifiable. The story, the nugget, the lesson, the moral is always exactly right. But the person might have been a CPA instead of a lawyer, it's like that.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's what they do in books and, self-development books. We use stories to be able to, share a universal experience, but just change the identifying information. All good.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So what I thought we would do is, I've been inspired by the story of how you met the man that you're dating. And I know you from the time when you were married, and then I knew you during the time when you were dating. And now I get to know you again in another incarnation, which is coupled up. So what I want to do is, as I'm asking you questions about your relationship, only share what you want, because I know you're discreet about all these things, but also from the perspective of the therapist. What it's like, I feel like you had an advantage in a way because you knew so much, but look for the lessons. I think that's what it is. Like, I'm going to ask you the question and tell me the answer, but then help me find the lesson in it. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, but can I just like say to you from
yep.
that, from this um way of sharing, this is exactly what Gandhi meant when he said, my life is my message. Because I can have the Dr. Cole hat on, but I'm a woman, I'm a human, and I've lived this experience. And so what's been really wonderful and fun, and frankly, at this stage of my career, I'm way more self-disclosing than I ever was in the first half, because everything's about being authentically connected to ourselves and using that information in the service of others. So I think that.
So in the same wavelength, Marcy. Um, Whenever I'm working with my coaching clients, and especially my boot camp clients who I really do invite into my life for 30 days, it wouldn't feel authentic to me if I wasn't sharing challenges that I'm having. Because, people think, oh, I'm single now and I'm lonely and I got this going on, I got that going on. There's nobody to pick me up at the hospital, and there's nobody to help me with my car, and there's nobody to fix that damn door that's broken. But,
Yeah.
but, what they don't realize is, once they get into a relationship, or maybe they do and they're just ignoring it, there's going to be another series of issues, right? There's another series of problems.
That's right. A lot of your energy is kind of hijacked in service of that relationship for the better, hopefully, most of the time. And sometimes it can get edgy and it can get hard and it can get challenging. So you're absolutely right. I mean, so yeah, we don't want to idealize relationships so much so that we hold them to this perfectionistic standard, so that it's not, real love has a lot of facets to it. So yeah, so I'll stop there and you can.
Yeah. So, like, I love the expression, the phrase that you just used. It was something along the lines of, the relationship takes up space. Okay. It takes up space that you used to have all by yourself. And now you have this thing that's in your life.
This other person to consider, this other person's, yeah, needs and sometimes quirks, as we all have them, and they're, all of it for sure. I mean, so much of this whole picture of romantic love, you have the I think, what was her name? Von Zandt, who was on the Oprah show, who wrote that book, In the Meantime, like your relationship with yourself in the meantime. And then you have the dating process, which you are helping so many people with. And then you have, once you're in a relationship, you know, I'm actually loving working with couples so much now. It's so rich. It's so rich. And it's so, I love watching their eyes change, and I love watching them drop into their heart when it's been hard and they've had blocks, or when there's kind of a breakthrough of understanding. Um, and yeah, and then you have the, as Catherine Woodward Thomas wrote the book Conscious Uncoupling. How do you do it in a way that preserves respect and gratitude for lessons learned once you've healed your heart enough to look back, and all of that. Yes.
So, knowing what you know, being who you are, going through the dating process, like if you had a message for yourself for the moment you began to think about dating, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to be dating again. And how long were you married, Marcy?
I was I was with my former husband for 13 years, dating, married, and then I, by choice, was not interested at all in dating for a couple of years. And then there was a point at which I was like, I'm ready again. I'm ready to, and I look, let me just say, there's not a cookie cutter formula, right? Everyone's, as you know, everyone's on their own path in their own way, in their own time, on their own journey. But I do think that most of the time it's really helpful to have a pause between one relationship and another. So I did, this wasn't an intellectual decision. I literally had zero desire at all to date for a couple of years. And I have a very beautiful girlfriend who's an astrologer, Vivian Summers. She's a very, very talented astrologer. And she was living with me at the time. And she said, Marcy, I just want you to know, this was like February of 2018. And she said, I just want you to know that you're going to have so much activity on the dating front at the end of this year. You've got 5 planets in Venus. And I was like, Viv, thank you so much, but I'm not, whatever. Like, I was not, no one was home. But wouldn't you know, like clockwork, my consciousness space in my heart started opening. My curiosity got, stimulated again. And that's what happened. It was like, whoa. And then it was like taking off. And it was fun. I had this text group of women on this text called the Mojo Return Club. Like they were my group, and I would post all these funny stories and pictures. And oh my God, it was fun. So yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. So you did enjoy and you relished and you took full advantage of the space between relationships. And I remember when that was, because I knew that you had just recently gone through a divorce. And I remember checking in on you and you're like, I'm really good. I'm doing terrific. Not really ready for that thing called dating. And I said, promise me when you're ready, you'll check in with me. And you did.
I did. That's exactly right, Julie. And I did, because here's the thing, what I want to say to people. There is no, gosh, if I could erase self-judgment and shame from the whole picture and the human experience, that's what I would do first, because then we can just listen to our hearts, just pay attention, allow it to unfold. And there is nothing wrong with saying not interested, and there's nothing wrong with saying I'm ready now, and I let you know, and I let people in my life, and I say this to people, be proactive. Like, but it's hard to be proactive when you have levels, if you're not good in your skin yet, or if you've got a lot of embarrassment and shame around it, or if you have a hard time receiving, that can get challenging. And then it stops, and then it blocks these beautiful channels available.
Totally. Are you full in your practice or are you still taking new clients?
I I I am taking a handful of new clients now. What I do with my private practice, because I do other things as well. It's not a full-time private practice. I have a certain number of slots, and when I'm full, I either put them on a wait list or I refer for them. But I've got about, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 slots available right now.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that, because people like us who've been in business and in practice for a really long time, very often, our plate gets full and then we have to send people to other places. All right, Marcy Cole, how many first dates would you say you had in this recent period of time when you were single? And over what time, how many first dates would you say you had? Take a wild guess.
Okay, all right. So I've never even thought about it. I would say, I wouldn't call them dates, Julie. I would say like encounters, meaning text communication or phone calls or coffee dates. I mean, during that year, because a lot of them didn't ever get to a coffee date. I mean, I just would screen them. I had a
Yeah.
very specific formula that was comfortable for me that I share with others. Well, I'll have to share on this podcast with
I
you.
was going to say, is it a reasonable small bit of time? Tell us, what was your screening process?
So my screening process is, when people are online, if you're talking about online, okay, they have a very limited amount of words to describe themselves and who they are and what they're looking for. And I say, first of all, pay attention. Part of the swiping stuff, I think, is intuitive. So I say, listen to your intuition and also really pay attention. Like, if they don't have much to say, then why are they online? Or if they're saying something that makes them dateable, not mateable, listen for that and know where you're coming from. I had a 50-word description that anyone who knows me would be like, that's her. Like, I didn't waste one word. And I say to people, really, this is a great practice at getting tuned into oneself again and, putting into words, who am I and what
Yep.
do I want? Right. So pay attention to what they're saying. And if you're curious or interested enough, get on the phone for 10 or 15 minutes and pay attention to your visceral. It's not about evaluating everybody so like in this rigid way, but listen to what they're saying. Listen to how it feels. I remember when I met when I heard Michael's voice, whoa, it was visceral. It was a visceral, like, acknowledgement of something that felt very familiar to me and him too. So listen to the sound of their voice, what they have to say, the cadence of the discussion. And if you're inspired enough, not everyone's great on the phone, right? If you're inspired enough because your heart is speaking to you, whispering, then meet them for coffee, for half an hour. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. And I would not spend hours on the phone, and I would not certainly go on a dinner date. That can be kind of painful because the person's, paying for you, and it can be a long thing. And if you kind of know, you feel, I had a lot of those where I went out to dinner and someone walked away thinking it was amazing. And I was like, not my man, but I'm going to be a nice human with this person and enjoy our time together. Right. Yeah.
I like, there's a fine line between doing too much screening and qualifying and not doing enough. And everybody has to find their sweet spot. But there's one thing that I learned from Allison Armstrong that I've really kept as part of what I encourage people to do is to know crystal clear, what is your primary dating purpose? Why are you dating? And the person that you're talking with, it's a very simple question. It's not a hard question. It's not probing too much. Marcy, great to bump into you here. Thanks. Match.com put us together. Isn't that great? So what are you dating for? What are you looking for? Are you just having fun? Are you looking for the last first date? Make it open-ended and people will tell you the truth.
For sure, Julie. And isn't it amazing? I'm sure you've found this too. There's a lot of people that are nervous about sharing their truth and their interest and why they're online because they're afraid of scaring the person away. And it's like, if you scare them away, then it's not aligned, and there's the door, and wish them well and thank you for the time. It's that simple. And to your point, people spend so much time assuming or wishing for, and then month 3, when something's revealed that no, they're going that path and you're on this path, and then they're devastated. It's because they just invested all of this into a fantasy of what they wanted versus what they heard. And so I think that's great that you're encouraging everyone at the get-go to get clear.
I was just on a coaching call earlier today, and I know this gentleman's behavior and patterns quite well, and he tends to do the same thing over and over and over again, different character. And it was so clear to me, and he was going on and on about what's going on with the new person. And I said, I think I know what it is. Let me know when you're ready to hear it. And he kept telling me the story because sometimes people just really need to tell their story. So 10 minutes later,
Yeah.
they're like, okay, let me know when you're ready for me to tell you what I think's going on. And I have made him beg for it because he's got his story and his justifications and his reasons, but the two things that were lacking before he engaged in this relationship that he's disappointed by is he never asked her what she was doing dating for.
Right.
And then he never asked her if he met her most important criteria. Like, do I even have a chance with you?
Yes.
Should I be wasting $150 over dinner every Friday night? Or is
Yes.
it a waste of my time, energy, money, and psychic energy, you know?
Yes. Yes. No, there's so much that can be shared. And people sometimes get confused between these very, very transparent conversations that are important to discern whether you want to continue to spend time, exploring this with like giving some message that, oh my God, I'm desperate to get married, or you're the one. Like, no, you're not saying you're the one. You're saying, who are you? And this is who I am. And do we want to move forward? I remember, I'll share, this was a juicy, sweet moment, which told me so much. When Michael and I were talking on the phone stage, which is a little different for us because we were long distance. So we were speaking on the phone more. Anyway, I'll tell you that in a second. But he referenced my profile, and he said, "You want a lot in a man." And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "That's good." And the minute he said that's good, I was like, good answer. So then I knew there was a man that wasn't intimidated or, you know, defensive around what a woman was telling him her heart desires. Right. And then I realized that he was sort of mature enough and man enough for us, that was great. So there's so many little like questions or little or deeper, discussions that can reveal so much in that very beginning for sure.
Now, as I remember it, and you know how we tell a story or remember a story a bunch of times and then it morphs into a slightly different story and we didn't know that we jacked with the story. Well, you don't know this, but I've been telling the version that I know, that I remember of your story, and I'm sure it's not actually accurate. But in my mind, what I remember you telling me is that you were driving up the coast and you were headed toward Portland. And this could be all wrong, but didn't you change your Match.com profile as you moved north? And no? Okay, tell us how it really happened.
So you got a little piece of it right that had to do with geographic magic that happened. Let me just first preface for you and everyone listening that I personally believe that we're divinely guided to where we're supposed to be, who we're supposed to meet, when we're supposed to meet on lots of fronts: friendship, neighbors, business, romantic, dating, whatever. And that nothing's for naught. Everything is meaningful. Everything can be used for our higher knowing and growing, right? Michael and I had a pinhole of a moment to meet in this lifetime, like pinhole. And because our timing was, he had been in relationship for 25, 30 years. So had I, if you counted up all my beautiful love affairs, and we were geographically not in the same place. So what happened was, this is so cool because, and I'm sharing this story because I want people to understand that they're not completely alone in all this. There are unseen powers working on your behalf when it's time. So when I was ready, right, that year, when I started to date, there was a time where I was really ready. In the beginning of dating, I wasn't ready for like my relationship because I was just starting to get my juices flowing again. But then, I remember the moment where I was like, you know what? I am ready for him again. I am ready for my next big love affair. And I remember driving and literally having my hand on the wheel and saying, "Where are you?" out loud. And it wasn't a "where are you" from a place of desperation or demand. It was like, I'm here. Like, I'm ready for you. Okay. Now, literally within that month, I had just gotten on Tinder. And we know that Tinder is known to be a hookup site. It's not. It's just like every other site. It's whatever you want it to be. And what's funny is I was on a couple of other sites and I just very spontaneously went on Tinder for some reason. I don't even remember why. I was going to take myself off all sites at the end of the year, but I put myself on that summer of 2019. And I thought, okay, whatever. I was very preoccupied with my aging parents in Florida. I was traveling a lot back and forth. Okay. So Michael in September, I'm going, where are you? Michael is driving from Portland, Oregon through Los Angeles to take his son to stop at a family's place and then to take his son to Austin. As we know, you can have, my thing was like a 5-10 mile radius. I wasn't looking for men around the country, but it pops up if you're in that area, right? So for some reason, and he claims that I must have swiped whatever. I don't even remember anything, but apparently in Tinder, he likes to say, I signed up for Tinder Gold. Like it's this elite club, whatever. So I pop up on his feed, but he's new to all of this because he had recently, a year before, ended a 25-year marriage. He's new to all this. So he's saying to his son, my phone's blowing up, and his son is laughing. His father had never been doing this. He didn't look at it until he went back to Portland. And then when he went back to Portland, he saw the messages that came through, he saw the women that swiped or whatever. And he somehow saw me and had that little voice, that little guiding that said, this one, I'm not going to deal with people in LA, but this one I'm going to follow up on. So he sends me a message on October 5th. Literally, Julie and everyone listening, literally within the few days of that, it could have been that same day, I had an inspired idea that since I was living my life again, I call my friend Lisa, who's one of my dearest friends who moved from LA back to Portland. She had been inviting me for 3 years to come visit her for a weekend. I have this inspired idea. I call her, I'm like, Lisa, if the invitation's still open, I'm going home for Thanksgiving, but why don't I change my flight and I'll come to you for my birthday, my weekend birthday, November 21st, and we'll go. And she's like, yes, and we'll hang out. So literally the same time he texted me for the first time was within the 72-hour period. I had the inspired idea to call my friend to plan a November trip to Portland. Now, fast forward 5 or 6 weeks, I don't see his message. I don't see his first message. I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention, whatever. He says a picture popped up and he thought he'd give me another chance, in his words. So he reached out to me again. Hey, I reached out to you 6 weeks ago. By the way, men or women, this is a great reminder not to let pride or assumptions stand in the way. You never know. So he saw a picture of me pop up. It popped up and he said, oh, I'm gonna check in with her again. I looked at this message and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember seeing this. I don't even remember anything. And I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't respond. I didn't even see it. He said, well, I live in Portland, Oregon. Do you ever visit the Pacific Northwest? And at that point, it was November 10th, and I was coming in 11 days. So I said, I haven't been there in 25 years, but I'm coming in 10 days. So that's and then I met him literally on my birthday for drinks that night. And we've been together ever since.
Oh, this is beautiful. I love it. And I love how I bastardized the story, but now I know the real story and I have it on tape. So if I ever forget, I can go back and get the real story. It's absolutely beautiful. All right. So you and Michael just went on a big trip. And I'm very curious as to what you learned about yourself and what you learned about him or the relationship on this most recent adventure, because every time we go on a trip and it's an adventure, we're going to learn more. What did you learn about yourself and about Michael?
Okay, so in all transparency, I'm gonna answer that question based on the fact that we traveled for we left LA in the summer of 2022, and we traveled for 14 months. We were skipping around to different homes for 1 month, and we went to Europe for 3.5 months, came to Portland for 14 months, and just were in Asia for a month. So I will share with you, this is a 2-part answer. The first part, Julie, is that trip where we were bouncing around, that year was the first time that we had to deal with some stuff, because what ends up coming up was that he had visions and ideas, and then I would be like, oh, but they weren't necessarily shared. So when we left LA, we were going on a magic carpet ride, just going into, I just thought like, oh, this is great. And we're going to be in sync, but we had to deal with the fact that some of his desires or needs or visions were not mine. We needed to figure out, how do we do this? How do we do this so we find our mutual path? And sometimes if I want to do something that doesn't speak to him, or he wants to spend time someplace doesn't pay, that give each other that freedom. There's a beautiful quote that says, love someone so that they love in a way that sets the other person free in the relationship. Because, and that doesn't mean you have to say goodbye. It means like, how do we feel free? Well, we could do a whole workshop on that one. There's so many facets to that beautiful bit of wisdom. Anyway, so we had an amazing time. We had some epic experiences, and we had some fun and shared experiences, and there were challenges.
I would only imagine. I mean, you're a strong woman and you have ideas and you have plans. And I don't know much about Michael, but I would imagine, I can't imagine you with a man who doesn't have a lot of backbone and a lot of passion and a lot of dreams. So this is an example of a relationship between two highly evolved people who have big lives, and you're finding ways to do it together.
That's right. That's right. Oh, he is. I used to say to him, oh my God, you're an alpha in disguise. Cause he's kind of like, he's a lover, and he comes across a little laid back. Sometimes he is, sometimes, but he's a very strong man with very passionate ideas and dreams. And so, um, anyway, so you know, we had to, we had to work with that. We also had to work with some stuff that I think comes up in a lot of relationships around, I hate these two words, not hate, hate's a strong word, but I have my own visceral reaction against these two words. And I try to help couples work with them in a way that changes the semantics of it and the energy around it. Power and control, right? That power and control stuff really step on love's buzz, man. It can just really, until you realize, wait, that's what I love your thing about me to we. Once you realize we're on the same team, we're not trying to take this is a value add. We're not trying to take anything away. How do we find our we-ness without abandoning the I, right? And at any age, and by the way, midlife is a whole nother discussion, because in midlife, when you're dating and you're partnering, you're way more aware of finite time. Like when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're like, we'll do that. Well, it's like, wait a second, we've got a finite amount of time, and it's really precious. How do we want to spend it? So now this latest trip, I said to him, I'm like, listen, this next trip, because I happen to have done all the logistical planning, and there was a reason for that. And he was down for that, but it's a tremendous amount of work. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Yes, 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 yes. So we're good. Okay. So, I mean, the thing about relationships, you have to know what to delegate, who is better at this, who is better at this, who wants to do that versus who wants to do this. So I said, this is an opportunity for us to kind of like superimpose some new memories, new behaviors and practices and experiences based on what we've learned onto this new travel experience. And he did, and I did, and we did. And it was like pretty much flawless. It was like the planning worked out well, our dynamic worked out beautifully. We had a great time. Yeah. So, but again, the message here is when I always say my parents were together for 74 years. It wasn't without their stuff and the winding roads, but they chose to stay in the room. And when
They sure did. I loved watching your parents' journey on Facebook. It was really, really beautiful. And your mother, did we lose her?
So my parents were married 74 years, and they passed 11 weeks from each other. She passed January 2021, and he passed April 2021. And I literally put a YouTube channel called The Cy and Rose Show. by the way. You would, that's talk about binge watching, Julie. You'll love that. And it was so beautiful to share it with online for people that could appreciate and feel connected to them and can also learn and feel inspired by them. Because there was a lot they taught me.
It's not uncommon that after a long-term marriage like that, it's a very short time that, who did we lose first, your mom or your dad?
My mom, but they were also in their mid 90s. Like, hello, like they were, but oh yeah, for anyone who's blessed to have their parents that long and blessed to witness a real love affair
Yeah.
that long, it's extremely painful for the one that's still there. It's like, oh my God, just put me out. But it wasn't long that my dad had to be in.
Unbelievable. Okay,
Yeah.
one more question about your relationship, because it's always an issue in partnerships. How have you guys worked out the financial thing? And has it been a problem at the very beginning? You know, did you have to come to agreements about who covers what? How did you guys work that out?
Great question. Never been asked that before. Good stuff. So we have a shared economy in this relationship. Um, Michael has had years of building what he has and needing to manage that. And I've got my stuff and he's got his. So he had the idea from the very beginning. I'd never done this before with someone. He says, let's have a shared credit card. Let's open up a credit card and have both of us in an account and all of our shared expenses and trips or whatever we have on that. Great. It's been beautiful. If we ever choose to buy something together one day, we will both contribute. It's been the easiest thing in the world to do it that way.
Well, okay, I love that. And I've seen people do it this way, and I think it's terrific. And yet, in every relationship, one person likes to spend, let's just say it this way, I
Yes.
find more buying opportunities than Gil does. There's usually
You think, and you think I don't, and you don't think our story isn't like what most would relate to. Okay, so another great question. Yes, for sure. I'm sure I spend more than Michael. Definitely. He's allergic to anything that has to do with a store or shop, like allergic, like my dad
starts
was.
twitching when he gets near an Ann Taylor shop. He's like, no, I can't.
Literally. But this is a really important. Michael has never approached me with anything like that. Like, what's that receipt? What's that? What's that? What's that? God, you spent $100 and something dollars at like, what's this bill from Whole Foods? Why so much? I mean, we've talked about like his way is just going to the farmer's market every week, and my way is to get a lot for a few weeks that will be good in the groceries in the fridge because I don't want to have to go grocery shopping all the time. So you just work that stuff out. But okay. So when you do that, you have to have innate trust in each other. You have to have generosity, like you do you, I'll do me, and you have to have enough financial compatibility. If somebody has, $1,000 in the bank and someone has $10,000 in the bank, obviously their spending is going to be different and they need to work that out. It's different. But if you have a general idea that you're around the same page, you just don't micromanage it. You just to support.
When the bill comes in, do you split it 50-50?
Yeah, absolutely. He
Okay.
sends me, I Venmo him.
Yeah,
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this, Marcy. I've mentioned, at least in my boot camp, I don't know if I've mentioned it on my podcast, but there's a couple that almost didn't stay together that I introduced a long time ago, and she has easily 50 times as much as he does, but she has an obscene amount of money. She says, well, I was widowed once and I was widowed well, and then I got married a second time and he was more wealthy than the first one. So I got widowed well again. And she's sitting on this pile of dough. And she says, Julie, I want a man who's in my league financially. And I'm looking at her place and I'm like, sweetie, I don't think that's possible. So what happened was she wanted me to introduce her to well-heeled men. Okay. So she would be comfortable in all these environments. So I introduced her to, like, I don't know, 10, 12 men. We were great relationship. We loved each other and we didn't find the right one. And there was this one guy I really wanted her to meet, and he wasn't in her league financially, but in terms of shared values and shared passions, oh my gosh, all this stuff. She loves cruising. She loves entertaining. She loves music. She's got a 2-story home in one of those big condo buildings on Wilshire Boulevard. They just blew through the roof and put in a big grand piano. I mean, this place is like nothing I've ever seen. And So I said, "Oh, I want you to meet this guy. He's British, he's a lot of fun, and he's worked for the cruise lines for a really long time. He's not in your league financially, but this is the kind of guy that you want to have like for a plus one for a party. He'll be sitting down at the piano, entertaining everybody." She says, "Oh, I need to meet him." Well, she never took him seriously because he wasn't in her league at all. She would have him over for coffee at her place. She didn't want to spend his money because, he didn't have a lot. Well, they just kept hanging out together. And before you know it, he's spending most of his time at her place. And how they worked out the financial situation is we got on the phone, the three of us together, and we came up with a plan. However much comes in to either one of their accounts over the course of the month, a certain percentage they would put into their kitty that they would manage through a shared credit card, and anybody could spend anything they want on anything. And that's the way it worked. And they came up with 7.5%. I don't know why, Marcy. I don't know why they came up with that number, but it was 7.5%. They've been together to this day. He's 6 years younger than she is. So she's like 85 now, and he's like 79 or whatever. And he takes her on cruises and pays for them right out of that account. He can buy her a big, beautiful ring. It's the most incredible thing. And so that's why I encourage people to make deals about this stuff and get off it about expectations about who pays for what and how.
For sure. I love that story, Julie. How beautiful. I mean, their whole life changed because you came up with a plan. If people are willing, and also she chose a man with character and integrity. And there's a difference between somebody who's like just trying to be, take advantage or whatever, and somebody who's a good soul whose journey has been this. I mean, listen, I was in television sales. I was making crazy money in my 20s. I went into mental health and made a decision to completely change it, which changed the financial as well. But if you have somebody who's followed their path, has been able to contribute something to the world in their way, and is a good soul, and you have the blessing of being able to be companions, that's a gift. Money, listen, the money thing is really, it's a blessing. It truly is a blessing and a curse because it keeps people from their highest version of themselves, sometimes their best version of themselves, the generosity of their heart. It keeps people divided and separate. And so you helped bring them together and keep them together. That's a beautiful story.
And it serves as a model for
Okay.
other couples who are
Right.
like, you know, well, I need him to make more money than me and have more stuff than me so that I can respect him. I'm like, well, that's not where respect comes from.
Oh my gosh. No, of course. There's a word in Yiddish called mensch, which I'm sure you know what
Oh,
that
yeah.
means.
I'm a menschette,
Yeah,
but I'm
there you
only
go.
82% Jewish.
Okay. So my grandmother said she had one piece of advice for me, be with a mensch. Just be like that. She didn't say marry a rich man. She said be with a mensch. And when you have someone with that kind of heart, that's what life's about, really, right? That can, so I hope that people listening might be inspired to evaluate if they're getting stuck there.
Completely. I just love you, Marcy Cole. I'm so glad that you shared your story with us on the podcast.
Thank
You're
you so
special.
much. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's such a rich and beautiful thing that you're doing with people around their hearts. There's nothing more beautiful than watching their heart connect to themselves and each other. So rock on,
Yes, and you
Julie
said
Furman.
that right, Marcy. You said that right, Marcy. Connecting with ourselves first and deeply
That's
while
right.
we're in the space between relationships. And the better we can do that, the
That's
better
right.
our future relationships will be. If people want to find you, book you before those 5 or 6 spots get
Yes.
up, and I might be one of the one who's going to book one of them up because I want to talk to you for a whole hour about everything that's going on in my life. So I'm going to book you before my people do.
Pleasure and privilege. Well, the easiest thing is to email me, Marcy at drmarcycole.com, MARCY at DRMARCYCOLE.com. I also have a webinar that when you were talking about it comes within first. I talk about this 4-step formula to finding love. Now, formula is like it's not but it's just true. It's just true. But it basically, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but it starts with the first two are internal. It's an internal, the first 2 steps have nothing to do with getting on the dating field and meeting people yet. It's internal. And the second two are getting out there and then having your experience. So if people want to connect with that pre-recorded webinar, it's 4 hours. They can also email me and say they want some information, and I'm happy to share that with them as well.
Beautiful. In the email that I send you tomorrow, I'm going to ask for the how-to because I want to experience this and I want to share it with my people. So I'll eventually probably work it out this way where I'll create a blog article about this is why Dr. Marcy Cole is so cool. And then I can say whatever I want. It'll be permanent on my website. And I want to do that with you.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much for the invitation, Julie. You're really special back at you. Seriously, sister. And I'm just happy that to connect with whoever's listening and finds this of value.
Absolutely.
And actually, I need to be more mindful of sharing this podcast, your podcast, with people in my world.
Yeah.
Because it's bringing up
It's
all
what you call the mutual back scratch. That's what it is.
well, it's just sharing more and more
Yes, that's right.
resources, right?
There are people who are going to hear something that they know intellectually, but they don't internalize it until they hear it out of Marcy Cole's mouth, right?
Or whoever, right? Whenever, whoever, and all the, I mean,
You said it. Yeah,
anyway,
that's why you
thank you.
do this.
Thank
Thank you,
you
Spear.
for this
And
beautiful.
ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go out there and transform me to we for yourself. Thanks for being here.